You never expect your wife to sit you down and casually propose an open relationship as if it's a normal topic of conversation, but that's exactly what happened to me. Looking back now, it feels like that moment was the beginning of everything unraveling. My name is Jason, I'm 36, and I'd been married to my wife Emily for 5 years. We didn't have kids, and life had been, at least in my eyes, smooth and steady, until that moment. It all began subtly, too subtly for me to realize what was brewing beneath the surface. A few months ago, Emily started spending more time with her sister, Chloe. I didn't think much of it. They had a complicated relationship but seemed to be reconnecting, and I thought it was a good thing. But then Emily's behavior began to shift in ways that were impossible to ignore. She was distracted, distant, and glued to her phone like never before. I chalked it up to work stress. She had been complaining about her job, venting about feeling underappreciated and stuck while others climbed the ladder. I did my best to be supportive, but after a while, it felt like my support wasn't enough, or even wanted. Then, one evening after dinner, she blindsided me. "Jason, I've been thinking," she started, her tone calm but serious. That sinking feeling settled in my stomach, the kind you get when you know something bad is coming but can't pinpoint what. "I think we should try an open relationship." I stared at her, sure I had misheard. An open relationship. I repeated, the words foreign and jarring. "It's not that I don't love you," she said quickly. "Do. But I feel like we're stuck and this could be a way to, I don't know, find ourselves again." Her reasoning felt flimsy, her words carefully chosen but empty. "Cut her off. Fix things by sleeping with other people." She sighed, clearly prepared for my reaction. "It's not just about that, Jason. It's about trust and freedom," Chloe said. "Chloe?" I snapped, anger bubbling to the surface. "You mean Chloe, who can't keep a relationship going for more than a year? This is her idea." She looked away, her calm demeanor slipping. "This isn't just Chloe's idea. I've been thinking about it for a while. I didn't want to bring it up because I didn't want to hurt you. But we're not exactly in a great place right now." Her words hit like a slap. Sure, things hadn't been perfect between us lately, but this? I tried to ask her why she thought this would help, but the more she explained, the less sense it made. All I heard was that she wanted permission to explore other options without feeling guilty. The conversation ended in a tense silence. I told her I needed time to think, but in truth, I didn't know what to think. Was she already seeing someone and just looking for a way to justify it? Was this her way of saying she wasn't happy anymore? In the days that followed, the air between us was thick with tension. Emily seemed oddly calm, almost as if she had already made peace with the idea. Meanwhile, I was spiraling. Every time she left the house, I wondered where she was going and who she might be meeting. I didn't have proof that she was cheating, but my gut told me something wasn't right. Desperate for answers, I did something I never imagined I'd do. I went through her phone. She always kept it locked, but I knew her password. It wasn't something I was proud of, but I needed clarity. Most of her messages were harmless. But then I found a thread with Chloe, and everything began to make sense. The messages weren't explicit, but Chloe was the driving force behind this open relationship idea. "Trust me, Em, it saved my last relationship," one message read. "If he loves you, he'll understand. You deserve to feel free." Emily, hesitant at first, seemed to be warming to the idea. There was no mention of another man, but it didn't matter. The seed had been planted, and Chloe had watered it. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind raced, and anger festered. The next morning, while Emily acted like nothing had changed, I made a decision. I needed to confront Chloe. She answered my call quickly, her voice upbeat. "Hey, Jason. What's up?" I didn't waste time. "I need to ask you about Emily," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. There was a pause. "Okay," she said, her tone shifting. "What's going on?" I told her everything. Emily's proposal, her distant behavior, and the messages I found. Chloe sighed deeply when I finished. "Look, Jason, Emily has always been complicated when it comes to relationships. She likes to have options. She's not great at commitment, honestly. I was surprised she stayed married this long without bringing something like this up sooner. Her words hit like a punch to the gut. Are you saying she's cheated before? Not exactly, Chloe said carefully. But she doesn't see relationships the way most people do. She likes to feel free. I think she might be seeing someone now, but I don't know for sure. The distance, the going out more. It's how it starts. My blood ran cold. If she was already seeing someone, the open relationship proposal was just a cover, a way to avoid consequences. Clenched my jaw. Why would you encourage this? Because she was miserable, Chloe said defensively. She felt trapped, and I thought this might help. I didn't want to hurt you. I just wanted Emily to be happy. That night, I couldn't shake the possibility that Emily was already involved with someone. I decided to look again. This time I found deleted messages. Most were gone, but a few fragments remained. You understand me like no one else, one read. Another said, I'm looking forward to our next session. The messages were with someone labeled only as Dr. Ryan. The pieces began to fall into place. The realization struck me like a thunderclap. Emily wasn't just seeing another man. She was involved with her therapist, the very person who was supposed to help her sort out her emotions. The betrayal felt sharper because it was cloaked in the guise of self-improvement and marriage repair. It wasn't just infidelity. It was a calculated manipulation of trust. Fury coursed through me, but I forced myself to stay calm. Acting impulsively would only give her the upper hand. I poured myself a stiff drink, the burn of the alcohol doing little to quiet my simmering anger. I debated confronting her that night, but the timing didn't feel right. I needed more than outrage. I needed a plan. The next day I reached out to Chloe again. She answered immediately, concern evident in her voice. When I told her what I had discovered, there was a long silence. Finally she sighed heavily, her tone filled with regret. I didn't know it had gone this far, she admitted. But Jason, you don't deserve this. She's crossed a line, and it's not something you can ignore. Chloe's support grounded me, but it also reignited my determination. If Emily thought she could play me like a fool, she was sorely mistaken. That night, Emily casually announced she was meeting friends. Her voice was as calm and practiced as ever, but I could see through the charade now. I nodded and let her go, my mind already racing with the next steps. Once she left, I called Chloe. I can't do this anymore, I told her, my voice heavy with frustration. I need to confront her, but on my terms. Not hers. Chloe hesitated before responding. If you're sure, I'll help you. Whatever you need, Jason. Her unwavering support was a lifeline. We agreed to meet the following evening to plan how I'd confront Emily. When Chloe arrived, she brought a bottle of wine and a sense of calm that helped me focus. As we talked, the conversation veered into territory neither of us had anticipated. Chloe's empathy and understanding felt like a balm to the chaos Emily had created. And then an idea began to form, a way to flip the script, to make Emily face the consequences of her actions. Chloe's eyes widened when I shared it, but she didn't protest. Instead, she nodded, her expression firm. If this is what you want, I'll stand by you. The next evening, Emily left again, her excuses as hollow as ever. I called Chloe, and within an hour she was at my door. This time the tension between us was palpable. Neither of us needed to say much. This wasn't about revenge or passion. It was about reclaiming control, about making Emily see what it felt like to be on the receiving end of betrayal. As Chloe and I grew closer, the sound of Emily's car pulling into the driveway broke the silence. My pulse quickened, but I didn't back down. Chloe met my gaze, her resolve mirroring mine. We were in this together. Emily called out my name as she entered the house, her voice casual and unguarded. When she didn't get a response, her footsteps drew closer to the living room. The moment she stepped in, she froze. Her eyes widened, her mouth opening slightly as if to form words, but nothing came out. What the hell is going on? She finally demanded, her voice a mix of shock and anger. I didn't flinch. Neither did Chloe. Instead, I met Emily's gaze, unyielding, as if to say, "Now you know how it feels." The moment Emily's gaze locked with mine, I stayed composed, letting the silence linger just long enough to make her squirm. Then, in a calm, even tone, I said, "Open relationship, right? Isn't this what you wanted?" Her face twisted in a chaotic mixture of anger, disbelief, and humiliation. She took a step forward as if to confront me, but then stopped, seemingly unsure of how to proceed. Finally, she sputtered, "Are you seriously doing this? With my sister?" I shrugged, keeping my voice steady. "You're the one who wanted freedom. I'm just following your lead." Emily stood frozen, her mouth opening and closing like she was trying to find the right words but couldn't. The shock on her face gave me a rare and unexpected satisfaction. For the first time in this entire nightmare, I wasn't the one at a loss. I wasn't the one chasing after explanations or fighting to understand the unthinkable. She was the one squirming, and for once I held the reins. Her fists clenched at her sides, and after a long moment of silence, she turned and stormed upstairs, slamming the bedroom door behind her. I didn't follow. I didn't care to hear whatever feeble excuses she had. This wasn't about making her see reason anymore. It was about reclaiming the dignity she had tried to strip from me. The next morning, I woke up with a strange sense of calm. The tension, the dread that had suffocated me for weeks, had finally dissipated. I wasn't angry anymore. I was resolute. Chloe had left quietly before dawn, leaving behind nothing but a simple text. "Take care of yourself, Jason. Call me if you need anything." I appreciated the gesture. She understood that last night wasn't about starting something new or filling a void. It was a statement, loud, deliberate, and impossible for Emily to ignore. As I sat at the kitchen table with my morning coffee, I heard Emily descending the stairs. Her expression was as venomous as I'd expected. Her bloodshot eyes betrayed a sleepless night, but her fury was undiminished. She didn't bother with pleasantries. "Are you proud of yourself?" she snapped, her voice dripping with accusation. I took a slow sip of coffee and met her glare with an unflinching calm. "I'm not proud of anything," I replied evenly. "But I figured if you get to explore your freedom, so should I. Fair's fair, right?" "That wasn't freedom," she hissed, her voice cracking under the weight of her anger. "That was betrayal. With my sister, Jason. How could you?" I leaned back in my chair, letting her words settle between us. When I finally spoke, my tone was cold and deliberate. "Betrayal," I repeated, drawing the word out. "Don't you dare talk to me about betrayal, Emily. You're the one who's been sneaking around with your therapist. Don't stand there and pretend to have the moral high ground." Her face paled, her anger flickering into something closer to shame. For a brief moment I thought she might deny it. But she didn't. She looked away instead, her shoulders slumping slightly under the weight of the truth. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," she muttered, her voice barely audible. I didn't know how to fix us. I thought. You thought sleeping with someone else would fix our marriage." Cut in, my voice sharp and cutting. "You thought you could call it therapy and that would somehow make it okay. You wanted an open relationship, Emily. Well, now you've got one. Wide open." The room fell into an unbearable silence. Emily didn't argue or lash out. She just stood there, staring at the floor like a child caught in a lie too big to explain away. Finally, she let out a bitter, hollow laugh. "I guess there's nothing left to say, is there?" "No," I said quietly, rising from my chair. "There isn't. I'll be contacting a lawyer. We're done, Emily." She didn't plead or fight. She just nodded, her shoulders sagging in defeat, and walked away. Maybe she knew deep down that this was inevitable, that we had reached the point of no return, and there was no salvaging what had been broken. The divorce was messy, as these things often are. Emily started out trying to play nice, but when she realized she wouldn't be walking away with half of everything, her bitterness boiled over. Accusations flew. Cheating, manipulation, emotional abuse. But my lawyer was prepared. We had the evidence. The texts, the timeline, everything we needed to prove her infidelity. The court ruled in my favor. I kept the house, most of the savings, and, perhaps most importantly, my dignity. Emily got what she wanted, her so-called freedom, but at a cost she hadn't anticipated. She burned every bridge in her quest for liberation, including the one with Chloe, who cut ties with her completely after the fallout from that night. Life after the divorce wasn't easy. Winning in court didn't erase the emotional toll, and starting over in my mid-30s wasn't something I had planned for. I threw myself into work, trying to rebuild a life that felt foreign and fractured. Trust didn't come easily anymore, and every potential relationship felt like a minefield. I thought about Chloe sometimes, wondering if I should reach out. She had been there for me in a way no one else had, but the complexity of our shared history made the idea feel impossible. Months passed, and through mutual friends, I heard that Emily wasn't faring well. Her so-called freedom hadn't brought her happiness. Her relationship with her therapist fizzled out, leaving her adrift and struggling to find her footing. A part of me wanted to feel vindicated, but I didn't. Just felt sad. Sad that we had wasted so many years trying to hold on to something that had been broken long before she ever brought up the idea of an open relationship. It's been a year now. Life isn't perfect, but it's better. I've started seeing someone new, though cautiously. Trust takes time, and I'm in no rush. I've learned to value my peace, to put myself first in ways I never did before. As for Emily, I haven't heard from her since the divorce. Maybe that's for the best. Some things are better left in the past. Looking back, I realize the real mistake wasn't her infidelity or her misguided idea of saving our marriage. The mistake was thinking we could salvage something that had been unsalvageable for years. Sometimes the only way to move forward is to let go. Here's to new beginnings, and to finding peace in the aftermath of chaos.